good morning for you, because we're sitting on the other side of the globe. But I really appreciate you finding time speaking with us today. So as I mentioned before, Career Combating Climate Change is opportunity for us to sit with very interesting individuals and executives across hydrogen and clean technology, fuel cell space, and learn a little bit more about your career and the impact you've made on the industry so far. So just to kick off, perhaps talk us through your career to date, and how did you happen to be here today with all your bright and colorful career?
Well, good morning to you, and thank you for getting in touch with me. My career is started in the mid-90s. I was actually involved in oil and gas exploration, and I ran into a series of dry holes, which is a word that means you drill and there's no oil there. So I was thinking maybe I ought to look at something else. And an engineer I had working for me at the time said, we ought to look at fuel cells and hydrogen. And it turns out this engineer had worked for United Technologies, which at the time was really the only manufacturer of what you might call commercial ready fuel cells. They had been supplying fuel cells to NASA for the space program for years. And this gentleman had been a part of the development of those systems. So he introduced me to some of his old friends at United Technologies. And we started a conversation, and they invited me to come up and take a look at what they were doing. And I was very intrigued, really fascinated by the technology and the really shift in a new direction for a cleaner, quieter, and more reliable form of power generation. So that really started me down this track. And as I was thinking about it, I decided to start a company specifically to develop fuel cell applications in the built environment with a lot of support from United Technologies. Actually, the name of the subsidiary was a company called ONSI. And I really learned the technology and applications from many, many hours of working with them, going up to their plant, spending time with their engineers. And it was a real amazing early indoctrination and learning process for me. And after that period of time, we were pretty much set out on our own, and we took off and started developing opportunities for the product.
What was that Logan then?
Yeah, Logan Energy, yeah.
Yeah, the company is still operating for you guys to know. And just to go back to your beginnings as well, what would you say made you start working within fuel cells, and what drives you to work in that specific sector? You did mention that there was not enough back then, and that your friend introduced you to the technology, but what made you decide that this is going to be your career, and this is going to be the company you're going to start?
Well, really the first thing is I really liked the folks at United Technologies. And I had been drilling for oil and gas for, well, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. And I was really interested in taking a look at what I thought was a evolving, cutting edge energy technology, hydrogen. I was just fascinated with hydrogen. And as I began to move in the direction of hydrogen power generation, doors began to open and opportunities emerged. One of the really first opportunities that was exciting for us was United Technologies hired my company to manage a fleet of fuel cells that they had sold directly to the government. And these fuel cells were installed at various federal government installations around the US. So the team, the Logan Energy team, and I went up and spent 10 days or 2 weeks with United Technologies technicians and engineers, and we were trained in the operation and maintenance of these systems. And when we were finished, they turned that over to us for about 10 or 12 units that they had installed around the United States. So with my team, I really spent about 2 years in the field, hands-on experience, operating and maintaining these 200 kilowatt systems. And it really solidified my commitment, because it was a great experience, a marvelous technology, and I was really enjoying everything that we were doing. It was challenging, rewarding, but it was a new experience and it was a new direction, and I could see the opportunity ahead.
Which was truly visionary, because let's be honest, how many years ago was that when you started working on fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells?
94.
Exactly. So back then, to have this vision and be really fascinated about hydrogen, there is a little bit of risk, of course. You are following something that you think you understand and you truly believe in. But even until today, there is still people questioning the market and not sure where to invest and what to do. You had this awareness. I mean, maybe we're never 100% sure, but you put it all on one card and started your company. And I mean, it's rewarding until today, truly, because then you meet someone like me and you tell me about your fuel cell system being installed close to my favorite park in London. And how can it not be rewarding for me to smile like this? Because I'm like, it's absolutely unbelievable, because it's been, I mean, Logan Energy was founded the year I was born, when until today people still question the market. So I hope you feel rewarded, and you definitely should be, because yeah, it was a lot of hard work. I know things can be nice and there is a lot of reward, but considering that it's been so many years ago and you really started in the market, what would you say were the challenges that you faced throughout your career developing your business back then, Logan Energy?
Well, like any new technology, there's going to be some resistance, fear. Does it work? Is it safe? Can I rely on it? So we needed to work very hard to overcome a lot of the natural resistance to adopting new technology. However, there were a number of early adopters which really helped pull the industry forward. And the primary purchaser of these early units was the Department of Defense. And I made it my business to get to know the people within the organization that were leaders and primarily responsible for directing government funds at certain applications and projects that they wanted to develop. And so over a period of several years, we developed a very close working relationship and became one of their leading operators and developers, installers of these systems at various Department of Defense military installations and government agencies. And that was very good work for us. It was also very good business for United Technologies. And it was a way of helping to convince the general public that the equipment was safe to operate, was cleaner, and quieter and more reliable than the diesel or gasoline powered systems. But there was a lot of work involved because these early systems were not as well tuned as they are today. They were still in many ways experimenting with different components, constantly making upgrades, tweaking it to try and improve the performance. So I would say in those earlier years, leading up to about 2000, 2001, we worked hard to get the reliability of the systems up from about 75% reliable, 75% of the time, or available and operating 75% of the time, up to around 95%. And that was a pretty strong improvement when you consider the utility grid in the United States has a reliability of about 99%. We got these fuel cells up to 95%. So they were unavailable about 5% of the year. So that was a pretty remarkable development
And
of the technology.
you did
We
touch
learned a
upon
lot.
the next aspect that I wanted to ask about your achievements and what you really feel very, very proud of, which you mentioned. I do want you to tell us a little bit more about Logan Energy, really, because this is definitely something that's your not only a business card, but something to be proud of and to be speaking about. So, what are you the most proud of after all these years working in the industry? And what would you say is your biggest achievement that you can just put on a table and smile?
Well, we were really working with three different fuel cell technologies manufactured by three different organizations. And that was challenging because we had to learn the specific systems of three different products. One was with Plug Power, and they were developing a residential small scale system that had an output of about 5 kilowatts. And that was a newly developed technology called a PEM, proton exchange membrane system.
Which right now is
beg your pardon?
basically the most common one in the market.
Today, yeah, probably. And then we were working with the ANSI Corporation, and they were developing phosphoric acid systems, which were commercial, not residential. They were larger commercial. And then we were working with Fuel Cell Energy, who was developing much larger powered systems, high temperature systems, and they were excelling in combined heat and power because they could develop systems that could provide both hot water and steam as well as power. So using all of those products, we developed projects in which we selected the right product for the application, which was best paired with the product. So we did a lot of what I would call performance testing and field evaluation of these products in various applications around the United States, in the Caribbean, in Iceland, in the UK. And it was really interesting because at one time, in any particular time, we might be installing and operating residential scale fuel cells, or we might be installing a fuel cell in a factory, or we might be installing a fuel cell in a large federal facility. I think the most exciting project we did was a 600 kilowatt project at a commercial building in California, in which we paired 3 of the ONSI fuel cells, the PC25 fuel cells, into a multi-unit load sharing, which was a very early application of having 3 independent fuel cells operate as one, with a controller which pulled together the power of all 3 of the units and operated 3 separate units as though they were one single unit. And that was a tricky, challenging, but I think it was made a huge difference and pointed to some great new opportunities for the fuel cell industry.
Definitely. I mean, a lot to be proud of and a lot to consider as an achievement, really. So fast forward from Logan Energy, which, by the way, just for everybody to know, it is still an operating company based off Scotland at the moment, isn't it?
Right.
That's why it's always going to be your baby, and it's always going to be something to speak very highly of. And yeah, the business is doing great. But right now, it's fuel cell solutions.
Right.
Which my question is, what is the main area of interest for the business and for you, of course, heading the division?
Well, with fuel cell solutions, we have done a fair amount of the work that I've just described. We've worked closely with other companies to deploy fuel cells in novel applications for the first time. And that's always challenging because every kind of application that's hadn't been done before requires a little bit more understanding about the best way to use the fuel cell to get the most value out of the installation. So we spent a lot of our time back in the middle of the 2010, 2012 period, working with novel applications of fuel cells, primarily smaller scale fuel cells. More recently, we've done some consulting with financial institutions and investment groups who are seriously considering of investing in the fuel cell industry, but wanted to have a better understanding about the risks, the challenges, the opportunities. So we were hired to do various kinds of analysis of products that were being developed, the applications that they best served, and whether or not the companies that were building and manufacturing these new systems had long-term prospects. So that was a lot of interesting work. We also did work for fuel cell operators that were experiencing problems with the systems that they purchased, installed, and wanted outside expertise to come in and troubleshoot what the problems were and advise them on how to make corrections. So we did a fair amount of that. And more recently, as you've seen fuel cells moving out of a basic stationary application into things that 15, 20 years ago I never considered. But now the aviation industry is adopting fuel cells because they are cleaner and enhance the performance of the aircraft. The marine industry, for the same reason. And those are 2 exciting areas. And also automobiles are using them. And these are all basically PEM fuel cells because they're simpler. They have a very high electric efficiency, conversion efficiency from fuel to power. And they are very easy to install and maintain. So I think for the fuel cell industry, those are significant opportunities that are really we're there. They're no longer on the horizon.
Yeah.
And there are probably 15 or 20 fuel cell companies in Europe and Asia, in the United States, which are all producing products now that are just remarkable in what they can do and how
And the applications where they can be used.
Right. And they're efficient, effective, reliable.
Yeah. I mean, with
That's
expertise
exciting.
like yours and over 20 years of knowledge, testing, de-risking, it's definitely expertise that helps to take things forward. So yeah, I just wanted to explain a little bit more about your company at the moment and what the fuel cell solutions provide and what's the focus. I know after the conversation we've had prior as well that this is very much your interest at the moment. Something that's, I mean, hydrogen and fuel cells is no longer new for some. So it's nice that you have this area to explore across vessels and aviation. To wrap up our conversation, I want to ask if there is a piece of advice that you could give to anyone who wants to either start their career in fuel cell or hydrogen space, or perhaps transition from the conventional fossil fuels into hydrogen and renewables. What would you advise?
Well, it's wide open. The opportunity is as significant as any other industry that I can imagine. um, the growth projections for the fuel cell industry are significant. The movement towards clean energy, quiet, and reliability for distributed power generation, where fuel cells really have a significant role, is going to, for it to develop and grow, it's going to need well-trained, educated people, but also technical folks who come out of the HVAC industry, who come out of the plumbing industry, or the electric contracting industry. These people all have the basic skills that are needed to propel the fuel cell industry into the different directions that I've described. Aviation is going to experience a renaissance, so to speak, in propulsion with fuel cells, as well as the marine industry. And those industries will require, and the demand for well-trained fuel cell technicians and engineers to design the application into aircraft and vessels. And we're really just getting started. So there's a lot that we've done. There's a lot of discoveries that have been made, but there's a lot of yet to be learned on how to optimize the application to get the best possible performance and economies out of operating fuel cells in these mobile applications. So younger folks who are coming along now with an interest in science and engineering, it's calling, it's beckoning, it's out there, and there's a place for you. And I think it's would be a thrilling career for any young person.
Well said. It's no longer unknown. It's definitely a market full of opportunities. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to listen a little bit more about your career. And anybody who wants to find out a little bit more about both Logan Energy, founded by your